Orthodox countries, Bulgaria, Russia, Serbia, Romania, and other places, South Italy as well.
To maintain its power, the Byzantine Empire wanted everyone under its control. In the 6th century, non-Christian Slavic tribes entered the region, and the empire had rules to keep everyone within its reach.
Well, the Slavs invaded this area by the end of the 6th century, and they tried on several occasions to come into the city of Salonika, which was protected by St. Demetrius. So they never acquired Salonika. They settled into the area outside the city and on Macedonian territory. But these people became subjects of the empire, because this was the policy of Byzantium. Whoever would come into Byzantium should become a citizen of the empire and respect the rules. The official language of the empire was the Greek. It is the same as it is nowadays in the United States. You may be Greek or Pole or whatever, but your official language will be English. Just the same was in the Byzantine Empire. The official language was Greek. You had to express yourself officially in Greek, but you could keep speaking your dialect, whichever that was.
The influx of new settlers and merchants had a profound influence on the city of Thessaloniki. Not only was its strategic port an enticement for invaders, but the surrounding fertile land also offered many more inviting spoils. Even today, that surrounding area of Macedonia supplies a large proportion of Greece's produce and industry. So over those centuries of trade and commerce, Thessaloniki developed into a rich, cosmopolitan city.
Well, any city which is on great trade routes has merchants and others from foreign parts either visiting it or settling in it. And Thessaloniki always was a cosmopolitan city in this way. But also, it was a cosmopolitan city in another sense, because during the slow, I don't want to say invasion, but the slow infiltration of Slavic tribes into this part of the Balkans, the area around Thessaloniki was heavily, though not exhaustively, populated by the Slavs.
The Byzantine emperors knew that to control these new settlers, they must Christianize them, teach them Greek religion and culture. So they employed two brothers from Thessaloniki to do the job. They were monks called Cyril and Methodius.
Cyril and Methodius were born in this city. They were famous people of their time, I mean the 9th century, and they used as children to come into this church and pray with their parents. So we are very close to them at this moment. The two of them created this circle which worked for the translation of the Holy Scriptures into Slavonic.
Now, the legend has it that almost overnight they devised an alphabet to write Slavonic in, which is phonologically an admirable instrument to write a Slavic language in. And that they translated the liturgy more or less in 2 days. This can't have been the case. They must have been faced with the problem of how do you bring Christianity, which meant civilization, of course, to the Slavs around Thessaloniki. If you talk to them, if you preach at them in Greek, which they probably don't always understand, you must talk to people in their own language. And Cyril brings it out again and again, you know, when he says, without letters the soul is blind. I've often said to people in Thessaloniki, you ought to be proud of these men, because every child who can write his own name, from the shores of the Adriatic to the frozen Bering Straits, is a pupil of a pupil of a pupil of Cyril and Methodius, citizens of Thessaloniki, who became, by their achievements, citizens of the world. Unlike the great conquerors like Alexander, who was another Macedonian hero, their weapon was the pen and not the sword.
Before being tragically killed by the IRA in 1979,
there are still Slavic-speaking people who, no matter what their ethnic origin, feel themselves as Greeks.
This is the first time I've been here, but I felt like as if I knew this place because of the way my parents had described it to me. You know, my whole childhood growing up, they told me about the place called Cratero, where they were born and raised, and that one day maybe I'll be able to see it. And sure enough, I came. You know, I'm here. It's a beautiful place. And it's exactly what my parents described to me. They described where they went to school, how there was a river flowing through the village, and how different families lived in the same house. They used to tell me the hard times they had and how our life in Canada is so much different. And just how everyone helped each other out, you know, the tough times when the villages got burnt down. They had to pack their things, move to other villages, move in with other families. I think they're happy that I came back to see the village, to see where my parents grew up.
Our village has been through a lot of trouble, and it's been burnt down 3 times, I think. It's because we didn't want to change not even our religions to the Turks, because the Turks are Muslims. And also, we were proud to be Greek, and that's why they burnt our village 3 times.
Our family at home, we speak Slavic, but we find that just because we speak a language does not make us different from what we are. We know that we're Greek, and we use Slavic as another ways of communication. And I've had people come up to me and ask me, why don't you speak Greek? And I say, well, you know, I speak English, I speak Slavic, and one day I'll learn how to speak Greek. You know, my answers back to him is, doesn't matter what I speak, I'm still Greek, and I'm proud to be Greek. You know, that's how I was raised, my culture, heritage. I dance. I've been dancing in a dancing group, you know, Greek all my life.
So that sense of Greekness, that Hellenism, is there to see. In 1890, a French journalist, Victor Bérard, traveling in Macedonia, wrote about his observations. Often I wonder how we can recognize those Greeks. How will we find the exact characteristic that makes them recognizable among Turks, Bulgarians, Jews, Serbs, or Armenians not Hellenized? A Greek does not carry any obvious sign of his nationality, and the only criterion that I was able to discover was the answer, I am Greek, which to your first question, a Greek will not omit to give you. In the middle of the 15th century, the greatest threat to Hellenism, Greek culture, was yet to come. A new enemy invaded, and the effect would be felt for more than 400 years. The Ottoman Empire, Muslim Turks, attacked the very core of Greek Orthodox power. And it was with these magnificent churches that the Muslim invaders began. Systematically and ruthlessly, they turned the major Greek Orthodox churches into their own Muslim places of worship.
Well, in the late 14th and early 15th century, the Turks conquered all over, not only Macedonian region, but also the whole Balkans. And there were 5 centuries of Ottoman rule in Macedonia, which seemed to be a winner in history and inertia. But there were many changes which had influence, long-term influences until now. The Ottomans, as all peoples of the East, I would say, had no idea of the differentiation between nationalities, ethnic groups, and so on.